Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, the youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry, whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God has you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Paulhamus. I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend,
Kyle Gray. Josh, what an incredible thing that we get to be a part of.
We were just talking about that. I think we talk about that fairly often.
I think we do.
And especially if we're taking a little bit of time away and then we come back to an episode, we're like, this is really nice.
Yeah. But this is what?
Episode 30.
Fifth episode into season 2. Like, let's be honest. We're into season 2, Josh.
Yeah. Well, our seasons are shorter.
Starting season 2. We're in. But hold up. There are some shows that the season is 8 episodes.
Oh, that's true.
Or 12 episodes.
Yeah. We're like the Mandalorian, except, well, not as good.
Not well.
Well, it depends on your preference.
This is the way. All right.
This is the way.
This is the way we do it.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and life.
It's right.
Full circle. Wow.
Hey, so today we're going to talk about why we do what we do, or why you don't do what you don't do.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things. This is not a part of our job description.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about, that's not my job.
That's not my job.
That's not my job.
That's not my job. That's not my job. You probably
Is that a real song?
No, I just made it up.
I won't cut it out. I'll leave it there. Congratulations, guys. You all got to hear Kyle make up a song. It was beautiful. I'm going to wait to say funny things until he drinks coffee.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. No, but there are, let's be honest. If we sat down.
Mm-hmm. And we are.
Okay. If we sat down and we wrote out all the things that I do in my day, I think I would be surprised at how many things I do that are not actually on my job description.
Yeah. And especially in a ministry, all of you guys out there listening, I mean, a large majority of you are youth leaders. And if you're not a youth leader, you might be a parent who's volunteering.
Why aren't you?
Yeah. Why aren't you a youth leader? No, but you're probably involved in ministry in some sort if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, you are doing something that was not in your original job agreement, or you're doing something that you feel like you don't have time for.
Yeah.
And then right now there's a whole culture, and we're going to talk about this later on, but there's a whole culture right now of like, don't do things that aren't your job. Now, there might be some truth to that, and there might be no truth at all.
Yeah, there might be some healthy side to that.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to unpack today.
But in a ministry and in life, I think that's a natural part. It's like we were talking about earlier with one of the new people that work in your office, and they said, conflict is a part of life. Conflict is a part of relationship. Well, that'd be great if conflict was never part of it, but I don't think we're as good as we are when we don't have any conflict.
Yeah.
I also don't think that we can have a healthy evaluation of what I should be doing and shouldn't be doing until I reach that point where I realize I can't continue to do all that I am doing.
Yeah.
So then I need to do some healthy evaluation.
Yeah. Well, you can't mark your property line unless you get to the property line. So if you set boundaries, you can't set the boundaries unless you know where those boundaries are. Yeah. Now, if you want to set the boundaries really early, and that's fine, and then you can reevaluate your boundaries. But at the end of the day, you have to make it to an edge of something to set a boundary.
Well, and that takes me to the Old Testament. I don't know if you remember that.
I've read that. Yeah, I've heard of it
once or twice. But where they talk about the people that move boundary lines, they're cursed.
Yeah.
There's a judgment is pronounced on those people that move boundary lines.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes we do that in ministry all the time. So
moving targets. And we talked about that in a previous episode, but being careful about even moving the targets for yourself. Before the episode, we talked a little bit about it's easy to get a reputation if you set the boundaries super rigidly. It's easy to get the reputation of being someone who's not willing to help. And then if you don't set any boundaries at all, you will get the reputation of being the guy who everybody can go to and get whatever they want.
Yeah.
So how do you find that balance, Kyle?
Well,
how have you found that balance?
I feel like we just jumped right in.
We did.
It's like the kid.
Hey guys, welcome.
That came to the edge of the pool, was like, I can't wait to swim, and just like jumped in.
I did that. So when I was 4, we went to a hotel. We got to the hotel and they're like checking in, and there was a pool there, and my parents were like, oh yeah. I was like, I want to see the pool. And they're like, okay. And they opened the door and I ran just full bore and jumped in.
Nice.
No idea how to swim.
Nice.
Fully clothed.
Nice shoes and everything.
Yep. My dad had to jump in and like pull me back out. And I have this memory of like all the tile. It's like seeing all the tile in there, it being like super hot and humid and like coming back up out of the water.
That's why you go into like, a little like twitching modes whenever people talk about tile on the floor, right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely why. Yeah, and it's also why I can't walk past the pool on property because I'll just jump in.
You just jump in. Those old habits die. Yeah. No, so like we said, today we want to talk about boundaries. Well, actually, Josh, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if we're talking about boundaries. I don't know if we're talking about saying yes, saying no, which yes can go back to boundaries. I don't know if it's how much is too much. But I
think we're just excited about the entire topic.
This is a full plate.
Yeah, I think that's why we just kind of like, we got a big plate of nachos on the table and we're like, great, and didn't say prayer. I mean, we did pray before the episode. But.
Well, and that's an interesting concept, Josh, because all of us like our nachos different. And I don't know about you. The more ingredients, the better on my nachos.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever been to Capitol and gotten the big like nacho bowl things they do?
No, but I've heard they're amazing.
Yeah, they're very good.
The first time I really started to understand the concept of an overloaded nacho plate was actually at a NFL football game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I was going to mention the team, but I thought we could potentially lose subscribers, No, but you have that. And what a great example of sometimes in life and in job, whether you're in full-time ministry or not in full-time ministry, we naturally either take on too much or we naturally push off. Like for us to sit here and say, all of you will naturally put more on your plate than you can handle. That's not true.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely did at the beginning of my tenure at Word of Life. And now I feel like I'm doing more of the opposite, but it's so I can make more room for involvement in my church.
Do you think that's because as a young guy in ministry, for you personally, you're going to only be able to speak to this personally.
Absolutely.
And share your opinion. Same with me. So let's try to be real clear on, well, hey, this isn't me, but this is my opinion. I know for me, I always looked for opportunities to serve because I wanted to be the biggest amount of help to the ministry that I could because I believed in what I was doing. And so I always looked for opportunities because I was marked by those people that were like, no, that's not my job. How about you?
I think that's probably the same. And I think now, I think the same thing is true about me. Like I really love helping people. And I think that's why I've set more boundaries because when I set the boundaries at my ministry here at Word of Life, I give myself more time to do the ministry at my church. But when I set the boundaries there, I give myself more time to do ministry in my home and in my local community. Yeah. So if I'm always doing, work or going to church, then I don't have time to spend with my family. And if I'm always trying to like get away from those things and I finally get time to spend with my family, then I'm not getting to, go outside and find opportunities to serve my neighbors. And that's something I really love doing because every time I serve one of my neighbors, I have an opportunity to tell them, like there was something I did recently and I won't tell you what, because I want the crown in heaven kind of thing. So,
well, now you're not going to get it.
Oh man, I'm not going to get it. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't make jest in that, but jest in that. I shouldn't jest about that. I shouldn't joke about that. Man,
Justin.
I shouldn't jest. Yeah. Anyway. I was able to help a neighbor with something and they're like, you didn't have to do that. And I said, I didn't know, but God has been extremely gracious to us and I want to make sure I can spend this time and be gracious back to you. Yeah. And that's not presenting the gospel, but I is laying a foundation of like.
You said I is laying. Okay. I can tell your wife's Spanish roots are like, are wearing, because
I've been speaking more Spanish lately.
But I definitely think, we are looking for opportunities that I read a book some time ago. I highly recommend the book. It's called Choosing to Cheat by Andy Stanley. By the way, Andy, again, I'm so sorry we couldn't get you on the podcast. We will set up another time. And so Andy,
we appreciate you reaching out.
Just keep reaching out. We'll figure out how to make a time for you.
We'll figure it out.
Dude,
StackingChairsPod at WOL.org.
So there's a lot of these different people that I say, hey, come on the show. Like I'm just waiting for that day that somebody actually reaches out to us. Alistair Begg, by the way. Yeah. Anytime. Okay. But in his book, he talks about the concept of you only have one set of time every day. And you have to choose what you're going to say no to. Yeah. You have to choose what you're going to cheat. And he talks about the concept of sometimes it's looking at the ministry and looking at your family and saying, hey, I'm going to choose to cheat the ministry because I'm going to give greater opportunity and value to my family. And sometimes I'm going to look at my family and have a conversation. And I have been incredibly guilty of this, not having the conversation and not involving them, but interacting with my family and saying, hey guys, are you okay with me cheating you a little bit so I can go do this? Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is, hey, sometimes I'm going to say no to the ministry because I've done my job. I'm not avoiding my responsibilities, but I'm going to say no to my job so I can have a ministry outside of this place. But
you just gave me, I'm not exaggerating. I literally just had a revelation right now. The same way that you're supposed to go to your family and have that conversation. Now, this might not be true in all cases, in all jobs, but I'm saying there might be a precedent for you go to your family and have that conversation like, hey, I'm communicating with you that I'm going to have to basically cheat you of this time so I can go be a part of this ministry. I think the thing that I fall into really easily is like, because I'm trying to do that balance better, my response is like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to go do this thing. And someone's like, you want to do this? I'm like, nope, I'm going to go spend time with my family. But that's not the same as having a conversation with that person. If they ask for something in ministry, you're like, hey, can you help us with this? Look, I need to slow down. If they ask to help you with this, then you can then return and say, hey, I'm not really willing to, I'm sorry. I do want to go spend time with my family. And I think it's important that I do that tonight. But slowing down, and that sounds like no difference at all, maybe, but it's the difference between a one-word answer and a sentence. And that sentence, I think, gives that honor to them and says like, hey, I want to be a part of this.
Well, and so I am a people person. I get fueled by relationship. I get fueled by interaction.
Yeah.
Other people might be task or goal oriented. I get fueled by completing the task and by accomplishing what we need to accomplish. And so the hard thing for me is I will look at, and I've done this to you before, I've done this to Dylan before, I've done this to other people. I've got to go home. Yeah. And then you get involved in conversation and then you continue that conversation because I'm continuing to allow myself to get fueled by the wrong thing. And it's crazy for me to think people aren't important because these people are more important. But I think that that's a healthy gauge. Yeah. It's not saying that Dylan and you aren't important.
No, of course.
It's just saying, hey, and I probably need to stick to my guns more. I remember one of my bosses, and I think this concept came from the Choosing to Cheat book. So I want to make sure I'm giving, honor where honor is due.
Yeah.
But one of my bosses used to talk about, you got to let like scripture says, your yes be yes and your no be no. But anytime you're saying yes to something, you are choosing to say no to something else. And that's such a basic concept. Like, just let it sit for a second.
Yeah.
The moment that I'm saying yes to staying a half an hour extra at work, there's nothing wrong with that. But when I sit down and I go, I'm choosing to say no to my family. I'm saying no to my ministry. I'm saying no to, I have to evaluate, okay, do I really want, I only have 24 hours every day, and I choose where to spend that currency.
Yeah.
And every time I say no to something, I'm saying yes to something. So a couple years ago, I got into this bad habit of running into our camp meetings late and just going, no, it's okay. No, it's okay. And there would be times that like the meeting would have started and I'd be in my office, like finishing up my PowerPoint and finishing up the different stuff. And I just realized I'm cheating myself and therefore I'm also cheating these campers.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care that Kyle Gray's not sitting in the front row. But when I'm anxious and I'm like, okay, I got to get there. And I'm cheating the wrong things.
Yeah.
And so again, do me a favor. Here's a little bit of homework. I don't know if we're allowed to give. I know we give homework all the time, but here's homework. Start a time log. Start a time log and do it for yourself. Do it for yourself and your spouse. Do it for yourself, your spouse, and your leader, or those who work underneath you. Start a time log and every hour. Where did I spend my last? And do it for a week, do it for 2 weeks, do it for a month, because I think we will start to realize where we are saying yes when we should be saying no.
Yeah.
And where we're saying no when we should be saying yes.
Yeah. You want to really like sober engage, open up your phone. If you have an iPhone, it tells you how much time you spend on your phone.
Oh no, absolutely.
And that's always sobering for me.
I remember one time these students I was walking through and they're like, hey, we want to see your hours of how much you use your phone. And I actually used my phone that week so much less. And they were like, oh, like I got this like pride button. Like, yes. But Josh, let me take it to another level. If you are a boss, Okay. If you're a boss, and when I say this, if you're the senior pastor, if you're the youth pastor and you have either interns underneath you or you even have lay leaders underneath you, whatever job, I think every single one of you ought to be doing yearly evaluations and yearly reviews.
Yeah.
I actually think, Josh, it is unfair and therefore unbiblical when you are not doing yearly evaluations and yearly reviews, because then we end up holding people to a standard that was never their standard in the beginning, or we're really unfairly waiting for a time to go, you didn't do what I asked you to do. Well, wait, hold up. When did you communicate this? But again, I think if you're out there, you ought to have an evaluation or an expectation. You know, how many times do we get a job description and there's a bunch that we do that's not on our job description.
Yeah.
And then do we do yearly reviews of, hey, let's talk about those different things. So,
well, and that's where I think, because there's a lot of you guys out there who probably aren't, you know, this probably isn't your job, the ministry that you're doing. And so, you know, finding those balances, I think it's important that if you don't have a job description written out and you feel like, you know, your boundaries are being pushed, or maybe you're not even reaching your boundaries, have that conversation with the person that's been put in charge of you. But that takes me to the next like cultural phenomenon. It's not even a phenomenon. It's just a thing that's happening right now, I guess. Which by the time that this episode airs, maybe it's not happening anymore, but I doubt that. I'm sure it's still going on, is the quiet quitting movement.
Oh,
so the quiet quitting movement, if you don't know, is this whole,
perplexes me.
Okay. So it's this whole idea that, you know, you just do exactly your job. And then, if you don't do any more, you don't you don't go above and beyond for something. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't go above and beyond within like the realm of what you do, but you're only doing your job. You're not doing anybody else's job. Now, I think that if you really unpack the heart of what this is, I personally think that it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you have to find that balance behind the heart of it.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, if you're always saying, especially in a ministry, if you're always saying, hey, no, that's not my job, then you may have missed the point of why you're in that ministry.
Right.
So listen, we're not going to talk about the cultural movement as a whole, because that's, you know, I think we'll get in trouble for that. I don't think we're allowed to talk about like political things or cultural things as a whole like that. But let's talk about it from a perspective from ministry. You know, does an idea of, hey, I only do my job and I don't do any more. I think the first thing that pops into my head is, you probably feel frustrated this way because you haven't communicated with the people above you as to what your boundaries are.
Well, and let's pause for a second.
Okay. Actually pause or?
No. Think about this concept. There is a revolution. Can I call it a revolution?
I don't know if it's that far
yet. A perspective change.
Yeah.
And there's an intentionality.
Well, the U.S. has been marked by a whole idea of like, hey, we do everything and we go above and beyond. And that's a very cultural piece of like, and people are like taking, especially now that you have your phone, people take their jobs home. I do.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I'm always checking emails and stuff.
Okay. So on that note, and then I'll get back to what I was going to say, I am respecting more and more and more the people that are like, I'm going to silence my phone. I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't do that. And so if you want to call me, my number is, what's your number again?
No. Not interested.
No, but like, I don't do a good job of that.
Yeah.
I need to respect my family and respect. I need to love my family more to be able to say no. There are times on my day off. Now in the summertime, I do think it gets a little blurry.
Yeah.
But there are times in the summertime that I will take my day off and my wife will say, can you just not, can we not answer the text messages right now? Can you not deal with the mom's phone calls or the people's, like, can you not? It's a struggle for me.
Sure.
Because in that moment, I feel like two things. Number one, I can just deal with this and then I don't have to deal with it later, or I can show that person value, which is the same thing. But again, I can say, no, Nicola, you're more important. Yeah. This is more thing. But here's the funny thing to me. There is a movement. We'll say it that way. There's a movement. There's a movement to do your job. Like think about that.
Yeah.
Like there is a movement to, you know what? You know how you can stick it to the man? Do your job and just do your job.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a cultural like wake up call of like, at the end of the day, when you're like, I'm going to do my job. But I agree with you. I think in some ways this could be a healthy thing.
Yeah.
I think this is us saying, is there too much on my plate? Mm-hmm. Are there unreasonable things on my plate? Mm-hmm. I think I then have to take a step back and say, okay, let me answer the question. Why is this unreasonable thing on my plate?
Yeah.
Did it get put there because this is how we always do it? Mm-hmm. Did it get put there because I willingly stepped into it and therefore then over time it just became part of my job? Mm-hmm. I remember one time, I can't remember. I mean, this is episode 29 at this point. 30. This is episode 30. So I can't remember. So I apologize if there's times. I know I've already told one story twice. But when I became the dean of ministries and the camp director, I remember having ministry team meetings and there was a person on the team that would just say, well, but this is how we do it. Mm. Well, but no, this is how we do it. Well, this is how it's done. And so literally one time I held a funeral service. Did I tell you about this already?
No, I don't think so.
I got to the end of our ministry team meeting and I said, hey guys, I'm sure you're all saddened by the news. I'm saddened by the news. And so my team's like, what's going on? I was like, just the loss to the ministry and a loss to just the team, really. But, and I know that this person was really near and dear to your heart as they were near and dear to my heart. And so and I think I would like caught up and I was like, out of kindness to all of us, I really would rather us not just mention their name anymore. And so we can talk about their brother. This is the best way we found to do it. And they start looking at me and I'm like, or we can talk about their cousin. Like, this is a really special tradition, but I want this to be the last time that we talk about, but this is how we do it because they're dead and they're gone. And I was like, I don't want that to be the reason. And so,
oh my gosh.
But like,
wait, hang on. We got to pause for a second. That is the most Kyle Gray story I think I've ever heard. I think if there's any story that you could encapsulate, what's Kyle Gray? He could take a really good truth and then turn it into like this performance. It's
well,
like
my favorite is Dylan. I think thought I was really crying and like leaned over and was like, "What's going on?"
This episode's getting emotional.
No, but again, why are we doing why am I doing this extra task? Yeah. Now, in our job descriptions here at Word of Life. Mm-hmm. There is a line that says, and willing to do what any other area as things come up.
Yeah.
Because I think our leadership understands that we all involve ourselves in. But again, I appreciate the yearly review, the midterm elections, the mid-year review.
Yeah.
And one of the questions is, are there things on your plate that you can't do or you shouldn't be doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's another question, is there something that's not on your plate that you would like to? I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I would say genuinely, the people that I've worked with at Word of Life do a good job at setting out expectations. I think the part that I've struggled always with is I don't like have that conversation back of like, hey, I don't think I can do this. Instead I'll think, oh, I'm not going to do this thing. It's too much. Or I'll say no to something and not give the explanation. I think that's where it's important that when we're working with people who are leading in our ministries, no matter what structure you have, if you're just a volunteer or if this is your job, you need to have conversations because that little line at the bottom, that catch-all is a really good line only if there's a conversation around it. And thank God, like I feel like that is the case here at Word of Life.
But it has to be healthy.
Yes.
And so let's get back to this concept that you were talking about, the quiet quitting. We've got a group of people, and I before we label it a demographic or an age. Yeah. And now I do think you go back to some of the boomers, even some of us Gen X, which I can never tell if where I fall.
What year were you born?
1980, but 1980 kind of falls in this weird like.
Yeah, I think you're Gen X though. You're like the tail end of Gen X then.
But here's my problem. I was raised by busters and boomers. In a Gen X world. And so like I can find myself going back and forth, but here's the deal. There was this old concept of you got done what you needed to get done because the company needs to succeed. Now you fast forward all the way to today. Well, how does that make me feel?
Yeah.
How does that prosper me?
Well, and also it's about experience and being able to fund experiences.
Right. And so, we're not going to get into, this is not a deep study into Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Alpha. Like that's not what we're trying to do here. Yeah. We're just talking about the fact that there are generational philosophy differences.
Absolutely.
Of those different,
Have you ever tried to understand Gen Alpha, man?
No.
It's completely outside of, like, my daughter's Gen Alpha, and I'm like watching her like grow up, and I'm like,
she's one, Josh.
I know.
You can't.
I know, but I'm watching it. I'm like, the other day we were at registration, and I like started to cry a little bit because I was like, oh no, she's gonna graduate one day.
Listen, when I put my oldest daughter in the car for the very first time, or actually I think he was when I was pulling up the car to pick up my wife, I started just like weeping. Yeah. And my wife's like, what's the matter? I was like, she's going to get married someday and she's going to leave us. And okay. So hold on for a second.
Yeah. We went off the track.
Why is pick whatever generation you want to. Okay.
I have it in my head.
Okay. I don't think that generation is the way that they are because of a subsequent generations. In other words, Gen X doesn't act the way that the typical Gen X acts because of Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Oh, and subsequent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'm tracking, yeah.
Okay. So the people that set the tone are the ones that came before.
Yes.
And typically we see the new generation start because the tail end of the previous generation begins to reject the way that generation is acting.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if everybody thought it was a good concept to drive 50 miles an hour over the speed limit, and then you had a group of people, and then it would become a cultural norm. Now it would start out, whoa, what in the world's going on? And then eventually all that the previous generation or enough of the previous generation would die out that it would become a cultural norm. And then you'd reach a point that there would be a tail end of people that would start to say, no, this isn't the way that we should live. And they would create the new cultural norm. Now, typically, I think we always go worse and further. So it's no longer 50 miles an hour. It's now 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour.
Sure.
But that's not always true. There are definitely some different things
the pendulum swing the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it becomes a cultural norm. So I have a hard time sometimes looking at these generations, these teenagers, and going, I can't believe you think that way. They think that way because we thought the way that we think.
Yeah.
And so they are a product, as one guy used to say to me all the time, what one generation allows, the next generation embraces.
Yeah. Yeah. You've told me that before, actually.
But again, it's, so you look at your daughter's Gen Alpha.
Sure.
Somebody's pushing her towards that mental thought, and you can say, well, it's outside entertainment. Sure, but
it's Bluey.
Oh my goodness.
I love Bluey so much.
Listen. Who's the guy in the? No, we don't want to talk about that. Okay. But your daughter's only going to be influenced by those things when you allow them to go into. So my parents, and I love my mom and dad, but my parents, the easiest answer was just no, stop. That's wrong. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
My wife grew up with parents that were kind of that way, but my wife was a part of the conversation a little bit of, well, let's talk about now. Or maybe my wife is just smarter than I am, which she absolutely is. But so when I'm disciplining my kids, it's a whole lot easier for me just to say, no, stop, don't do it. That's wrong. Yeah. Don't walk out in the middle of the street. You're going to get run over by a car. Now, number one, that's why I think some other people are like, but I've walked out in the street 50 times and I didn't get run over by the car. Yeah. So that's not my experience. Therefore, that's not true. My wife will say, well, talk to them about why.
Yeah.
Have a conversation about why so that you can help them think for themselves on that. I think it goes back to what we're talking about. Well, this is my job or this isn't my job.
Yeah. So how do you bridge that gap then, especially when you have a generation that might look at you and say like, hey, I've set these boundaries so that I can have these experiences on the side. And they're like, hey, I don't set these boundaries. I set it over here so that way I can be the most effective that I am in this ministry. And if you don't do that, then you're not the effect to the ministry. And then the younger generation, like myself, would look at those people and say, you're not an effect to the ministry because you do too much in the ministry. And then you give up these other opportunities. So how do you bridge that gap?
I think it's got to be.
You just don't know.
No, I don't think there's an answer.
Yeah.
You know, I would say this. Okay, so I was sitting down with my interns this year, and 2 of them are in school and 1 of them's not.
Yeah.
And so I try to be fairly relaxed. I understand that our camp office sometimes is just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And other times it feels like a barren wasteland of like right now, the Bible Institute, there's not a lot going on. There's a little bit of a lull at this time, at this non-disclosed time. And so, but I know there's a little bit of a tidal wave coming, or it's going to start to build. So I'm trying to get them to focus on things that they can do now so that when the tidal wave comes, they're like, okay, we're ready for this thing. We're ready for this thing. Okay. So I'm trying to have a healthy concept, and we started talking, and I just said to him the other day, hey, listen, when your schoolwork gets to be big, let's just have a conversation. Let me set the expectation for you. But then when the times come, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, break out the concept, because Kyle Gray said it's the best thing in the world. You've got some leaders out there. I was going to say a position, but you have some leaders out there that, like you're saying, their expectation is you show up at 8 o'clock, you work all the way till 5 o'clock, and then you leave. There's other leaders that would say, okay, you start the day at 8 o'clock, which means you show up at about 7:30, 7:45 so that you're ready to go with the day at 8 o'clock. You stop working at 5 o'clock, which means that you actually leave the office at 5:30. Okay. Then you've got other people. Hey, I just need you to work 8 hours today, or I need you to work roughly 40 hours this week. I don't care when you work those 40 hours. I need you to work those 40. So there are a myriad of different concepts.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that I can do as a leader is have the conversation of my expectations, which goes back to what we talked about before, with my people. Here's what we need to get done, and here's my thought of how I think and when I think it should be done.
Yeah.
Now, there's absolutely some different things. For instance, summer starts June 6th. Guess what? That's not a relative sometime in June. No. So to do that, then I got to back up the gate. I got to back up the calendar. Got to back up the calendar. And I think you got to have that conversation with your people. Yeah.
And I think you have to have that conversation up as well. And then also in a volunteer context, because we're talking vocationally right now. And a lot of you guys might be bivocational. You might be a volunteer. You might be involved in some way in your ministry that's completely just like, hey, I'm just there 2 hours, and then I'm thinking about taking on more. I think it just, whatever you take on more of, just make sure you're having those conversations with your leadership.
Well, and I think so there was a youth group that I worked with when we were in Texas. Awesome youth group, trying to do everything they can to connect with students. And I finally sat down with the youth pastor one time and I said, can I give you my opinion? And he said, yeah. I said, I don't think you have enough leaders. His concept was, no, we had enough leaders. And I said, hey, can I give you my backstory? And he said, yeah. And I said, it feels like you guys started out your church and you had 5 leaders and you had about 15 kids. And 5 leaders for 15 kids maybe is a little over.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That seems like a lot.
Okay. Yeah. But you had 5 people that really, really wanted to get involved. So then you grew to 25 kids and you had those same 5 leaders. Then you grew to 30, 40 kids and you still had those same 5 leaders.
Yeah.
Then you grew to 70 kids and you thought, maybe we should add another leader or 2. But then you get to this point where we just learned how to do ministry with the amount of leaders that we have instead of saying, what's a healthy balance for us?
Yeah.
Okay. On the other side, you've got a leader that's like, hey, I've got these 5 boys in my small group and I go to every single one of their games. Not because my youth pastor expects me to, but he talked about getting involved and going to get involved in the lives and going into games. And so I went to every single one of their games. Well, that's fine when all 5 boys played one sport and some of them played on the same team.
Yeah.
Now this new group of boys that are in my small group, 3 years, 4 years down the road, they're all participating in 2 to 3 sports. So is the continual expectation that I go to all their games. If you're not having yearly review and evaluation conversations, you can get real busy real fast.
Sure.
You can get overloaded real fast. And I think you can set up unfair expectations for yourself and for those people that are underneath.
That's quite a precedent that you're trying to set there. Like, I mean, genuinely, like setting up like those meetings with volunteers, that might not be something that people are used to.
Well, I don't think they are. In fact, Josh, I think you'd be incredibly surprised. In fact, do me a favor if you want to. No, do me a favor. I would love to find out how many of you get a yearly evaluation and how many of you give yearly evaluations or reviews.
You're talking about volunteers and vocation.
Volunteer and vocation.
Or bivocation.
Bivocation. Whatever.
What about trivocation?
Quad vocation. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Or just vacation. Okay. No, but okay. For instance, one of the things, we hand in a vacation sheet.
Yeah.
Now, it's a paper form.
Yeah.
It's not digital. So anytime you make a change, you got to go and you got to hand in a different paper form, which I can tell you how I feel about that. But there is an expectation. And so there are times that my boss will come to me and he'll go, "Oh, I didn't realize you were on vacation." You know why? Because his secretary updates our vacation sheet so that because his desires, I don't want to bother you when you're on vacation.
Yeah.
I don't want to bother you on that. Now, if you're just taking the day off, like for instance, this past weekend, I worked Saturday and Sunday, and my wife said to me today, "Hey, are you going to take any time off this week?" That's a fair question for her to ask.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, my boss may be going, "Hey, every once in a while, there's just some extra things you got to do, and I just need you to step up," which again, if I'm having a conversation with my spouse, "Hey, let's not forget this thing is coming up. I'm going to be busy Friday and Saturday."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's the next. But at the same time, it's not unfair for her to ask.
No, not at all.
When are we going to get you?
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, there's a lot to unpack there.
And I think it goes back to, and so here's what I would encourage you to do. I would set up a time to do regular reviews or evaluations, whatever. I think you need to do that yearly planning. I think you need to do that monthly planning.
Yeah, we just did ours the other day.
Right, but so how much did that set you up for success as a?
Oh, yeah, it was great. Well, we did with the parents. We did a big parent
that's
meeting.
awesome.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
It was fantastic. So we met with all the parents and just Matt went over what we were going to be going over for the next 3 months, talking about we're going to be going over some sensitive subjects as well and talking about like, hey, we're working up a plan. I might actually be teaching for a couple weeks the younger guys and girls. Yeah. So, but like I loved that because it was really intentional about like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the goal moving forward. And that kind of intentionality, I think the parents really appreciated too. And, you know, Matt is, Anyway, I have never enough good things to say about Matt. I don't know if he listens or not. I haven't actually asked him. He knows that we do this. So
yeah, because
we'll see if he mentions
doesn't everybody in your church talk about stacking chairs?
Because they know that I do the show.
Oh, not because they listen.
I don't know. They might. I'll have to ask. Maybe that's all our viewership. Like this whole time we've thought that we have like people listening. It's just all the people from my church.
Just your church. Wow. Oh, that's awkward.
I did call my mom the other day and said, "Mom, I mentioned you." And she goes, "Oh no, I fell off at episode 12. I have to listen again with your dad." And I'm like, "Dang, I said they listen."
Wow.
You made me a liar, Mom.
Wow. I had a guy come over and meet with me in my office and he said, I was about 4 episodes behind. And so I drove all the way from Melbourne. He was like, "I listened to all 4. I'm halfway through the 4th one. He's like, and he said, but then I realized, what am I going to listen to on the way back?" I thought
that's sweet. That's sweet.
Cool.
No, thank you guys for listening. You know, or watching if you're watching here.
So the other day, I had a church approach me and say, "Hey, would you pray about taking on an extra thing?"
Yeah. Do you want to do this for small group? Because I was actually going to ask you about this. We could do it for small group if you want.
Let's do it.
Because we're almost out of time here, so it might be a good idea.
Hey, that'd be awesome.
It's time for small group.
Small group is a time that we either talk about a question, we tell a funny story, we talk about something that's happening in our lives.
Yeah.
Good, bad, ugly. Most of the time, Josh doesn't have to cut out this section, but sometimes he does.
I have had to cut out a couple stories from some of our guests. I will not deny.
So, a little bit of spiritual time or personal time. That's pretty well. I had a church the other day come to me and say, "Hey, we'd like for you to pray about joining our team on an interim basis." And I was like, wow. I mean, I was blown away. Like, this is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciated the fact that the guy didn't ask me to make a decision right then and there.
Yeah. That'd be a red flag.
I could tell it was pressing.
Yeah.
I could tell it was pressing. But I said, okay. I said, let me talk to my spouse. He said, absolutely. That's smart. And so one of the very first things I did was I sat down and I talked to my spouse, and we took a couple weeks. And I told the guy, I said, hey, this is going to take some time. And he said, that's no problem. And so Nicola and I talked back and forth, and we reached a point where we said, hey, we think that this is a good idea. This decision would move us to have to make a different church, our home church, for a little bit of time. And so we said, hey, we need to talk to our kids and find out how our kids are going to feel about this. Yeah. My oldest was like, yeah, whatever. She's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm easygoing.
She's chill.
She is. The younger ones were like, oh, wait a second, let's talk about it. Yeah. And I appreciated it. Now, I really wanted them all just to go, yeah, absolutely, Dad, whatever. If you've prayed about this, if you've thought about this, then we can trust you. But that came. I then appreciated the fact that this guy allowed me to go and take the extra steps to talk to my boss, talk to my spiritual people. And again, I think there's a difference in talking to spiritual people and talking to your spiritual people. And it was good. And it was just such a confirming time in my life for me to go, okay, this is going to take this much more extra time. Yeah. And so is this a good idea and a good concept for my family? Yeah. For my job? It's gonna ask me to say.
Yeah. And now you've jumped into it.
And now I've jumped into it. Tonight is my very first night.
Which by the time this episode airs, you'll have been doing this for a little while now.
Yeah. So I'll have a new perspective to speak from.
Yeah. Well, no. So the one I've actually had an opportunity as well to jump into a new ministry that's not like part of my job, quote unquote, and I'm teaching English as a second language. For some of our missionaries with Word of Life. And I remember at first I was like talking to Melanie and I was like, I have no idea how to do this. I don't know if this is a good idea. Yeah. But it has been the most fun experience. I'm actually teaching a class today. It's like twice a week. It's with 3 people in Guatemala who are trying to get better at English. They're intermediate. And there's just something really cool and special about being able to serve somebody in a way that you wouldn't think of. Because when you think of ministry, you're thinking of like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and, interim youth pastor, like automatic. Hey, that's a ministry you could do on the side. Right. Teaching English as a second language to missionaries was not at the top of my list. Right. And, but God has blessed through this immensely. I've been able to build connections with people who I never would have been able to connect with. Right. And, but no, I would say the one note I had said was find ways to say yes. Like find the balance that you need to find, talk to your family, go through all those steps we talked about in this episode, but find ways to say yes because God will bless you if he's put it on your heart.
Well, and I had a guy, I was out to lunch with one of my spiritual people the other day, and I was running the concept past him, and he said, do you think this is going to turn into a full-time job? And I said, I don't plan on it turning into a full-time job, but he brought up a good point, and he said, the more that you get into this, he said, I think they're going to go after you hard. Yeah. And so anything extra, again, if I'm sitting down and I'm doing my yearly evaluation, if I'm doing my yearly review, it's okay to say yes to something for a certain period of time. And then it's okay to say, hey, I'm going to reevaluate. I'm going to say no. For this certain period of time. For instance, the other day, like I said, I was talking to my interns, and the one boy was like, dude, I don't have to think about schoolwork while I do this different thing. And you could tell it was a mind shift for him, because when those 2 other ones started talking about, oh man, how are we going to balance school and schedule? He dropped back into that old way of life. And it was like, wait. I don't have to think that way anymore. Yeah. Again, if it's not on your job description, I think it's okay to say yes for a certain period of time and then say no. Yeah. That may it may turn into you sit down for your yearly review and you say, hey, I want this to be now a part of my job description. Or your boss may say, hey, we want this to be now be a part of your description. But I think then, my personal opinion, opinion by Kyle Gray, I think you need to sign the new contract.
I honestly love that idea. I think that's a really healthy way of being intentional about making sure you know what you're doing and why you're doing it and when. Yeah. I love that. Well, Kyle, that's small group. And that was actually, I think that was my favorite small group that we've done because it was just cool to hear, because I knew you were doing that, but hearing your perspective a little bit, that was cool.
Yeah. So. I hope by the time that this airs, I wasn't like, I'm done with that.
I have to cut out the whole small group. Oh, man. All right. Well, hey guys, this has been Stacking Chairs. Find those balances, but also find ways to say yes. God's going to bless you through it. Absolutely. Kyle, you have any closing thoughts?
Listen, I think it's just having healthy conversations with the people that have the most weight into your schedule in life.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the conclusion we've had every episode.
Yeah.
Is conversations, communication.
Because there's always a better way to stack those chairs.
There it is.
Stack those chairs. Stack those chairs.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week.